And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're going to take a look at a game called Shadows of Macao. Although if you look at the title, it just says Macao, which is confusing because there's already a game about that. But the designer of this game has made some fantastic games, and so I look forward to trying this one out. It is the theme of this game: the only way to cover up a crime is to commit another crime, and you're trying to take over be the mob boss of a city. Let me tell you before we even start here that this is a pretty themeless game. You're just collecting stuff in this game and spending resources to get other resources. It's that style of game. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just that this really cool sounding theme doesn't have much to do with the game. I'll show you. In this game, each player is going to start with a widow who has some symbols on them, and I'll explain those symbols in a bit. You'll split all the rest of the cards, including possibly widows that weren't handed out at the beginning of the game, into about 4 equal stacks. And on your turn, players have 3 different options that they can do. One of them is called Contact and Informant, and that's pretty simple. You just take a card from here and stick it in front of you. This will count as this is a blue card. The cards have blue and red sides to them. When you take a blue card in front of you, that's fine, but you can only have 5 blue cards in front of you. So you're going to want to turn some of these cards over to the red side. So let's say, for example, I eventually get this guy here, and then I get maybe him later on, and then I'm going to take her. And what I want to do is I want to recruit a new member. So to recruit someone, you need to pay the symbols that are at the bottom. So, for example, this guy here needs a die, needs beer, and needs money. So I can spend this guy, discarding him for the money. I can spend her for the die. And I don't have someone with beer, but the widow is a wild, although when I spend her, I'm going to have to kill her, and she takes up one of my slots. But by spending all those, I now turn this guy over. So first of all, he's going to be worth points at the end of the game. Secondly, he gives me a symbol that I can spend to build other people. So let's say later on, I have her out here, and then I get this person. I'll be able to spend his one and keep him, and spend hers, discarding her, to turn her over. Now I have 2 dice and 8 points. But they also have special abilities. So this person, for example, the groupier, from now on, when the cost here has several identical resources, it's down by 1. So for example, this guy needs 3 lanterns. I now only need 2 lanterns to do them. I might have actually considered, instead of spending my widow, to spend her resources. She's -2, but now I always have a wild in front of me. So that's what you're doing over the course of this game. You can only ever have 5 blue characters, but you can have as many red characters as you want. The final thing you do is open an establishment if you meet the requirements for something here. So if I have 4 of these money symbols in front of me, I'll take this, flip it over, and it's worth 6 points at the end of the game. There's a certain number of these you'll put out based on the number of players in the game. The game is going to end when someone has 7 red characters in front of them, or if all the tiles are gone. At that point, you simply add and or subtract the number of coins that are on the different cards and establishments that you have collected over the course of the game, and whoever has the most is the winner. Problem with this game, component-wise, is this. No joke, these are all the stuff that comes in this game. I was mind blown on that. Look, you don't need to have a tiny box for everything, but you can see this could have easily fit in a box half this size. Or they could have made the cards bigger. These cards are thin, and the artwork's fine on them, and they're good quality cards. But they're thin, and the symbols, there's not even a card in this game that tells you what all the symbols do. Like, what does that mean? I mean, that lets you have an extra blue card in front of you. What does that mean? That means I can use those in place of those, but it's not always easy to remember these, and I just found that, they're not always even the easiest cards to shuffle, per se. I just felt like, again, if they wanted to make a game this small, then why is it not in a smaller box? It's fine. I like the artwork. It has a nice evocative feel, like a gangster movie almost to some degree. But yeah, I think some people are going to be disappointed when they open the box, at least component-wise. Well, there you go. Shadows over Macao. It's a pretty simple game, although it seems really straightforward at first. You have to collect a lot of cards, then you discard those cards to get one resource. And then you collect a few more cards, but now it's a little bit cheaper. So the game kind of ramps up pretty quickly once you get a few cards. I personally almost always try to convert my Widow. I don't care if it's -2 points. Having a wild resource that you can use to bring new people in is worth the -2 points to me. And you also can decide what you're going to do, but you don't have to go by what's on the top of the 4 piles, but you can look at those tiles to decide and see if you want to get them. So if you have played this or you watched a review, this might remind you of another game called Splendor. Splendor, extremely popular game, came out 6 years ago, in which you collected poker chips, spent those poker chips to get cards. Those cards gave you discounts on future cards. There's a lot of differences between the two games, but there's no denying there's a similarity between them, even to the amount of components per box size. But the problem is, I cannot, and I don't often do this in reviews, but the fact is, I cannot play this game without thinking of Splendor. And every time I play this, I think, why am I not playing Splendor? This game doesn't have a lot of diversity. Again, you have 4 choices of which card to take. The card you might want, it might not be there. The card you want might not be there. So I just take the card I can, and I say, okay, well, I'll take this one. It gives me a special ability. Special abilities aren't that fantastic. And, oh, this one lets me convert money to this. And sometimes someone gets a nice little engine built just because the cards worked out for them. And I would probably be okay with this game if it was a really tiny pocket game and it was just a small little engine building game. But because it's marketed the way it is, and because Splendor is still easy to find at this point, how can I recommend this one? Especially with the fact that you have to look up the special abilities. The theme is cool, but doesn't really mean anything. And Splendor has those really cool poker chips. So it just kind of, this is one of those games that it's like, well, it's a nice idea. I just can't recommend it while the other game's on the market. In a vacuum, even then I might have a problem with it. Again, small amount of components. They're okay theme-wise. And at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like I beat you because I played better. I beat you because the combo cards that I picked, like I picked a gun, so a guy with a gun, and oh, now lots of cards have guns on them. How lucky for me. But I don't know what's in the pile. I don't know what's coming up. So, it's just kind of a mad game for me, unfortunately, even without the bigger shadow of Splendor hanging over it. 10 years ago, maybe, I would have pushed this one a little more. As it is now, I don't know that I can really recommend Shadows of Macao. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you all next time. Dice Tower Judgment, it's fine if Splendor didn't exist.